thank you for completing your pre-work. I know that was a different expectation than what we've had before, but just like we expect our kids to do things ahead of time to be prepared for class, like we as adults, when we do professional development, should do the same thing, and that helps us get more out of our time together. Today we're going to continue talking about vocabulary, but can somebody just very quickly refresh my mind? In your pre-work, why was vocabulary instruction important? So what is the research behind why we're going to spend this time talking about vocabulary? Yes, Brian.
If I was correct, and I know this seems very fancy, the more vocabulary that they know, the better opportunities to retain information and get information in their brain. Like if there's words in a new content, they're able to have some experience that connects that schema to the word into that.
Anybody else? One more idea?
Well, and our kids are coming in with a dramatic deficit, and so in order for them to be able to learn the same amounts of things, we need to catch them up so that they can access the same material.
Wonderful. So today our job will be to talk about what is effective vocabulary instruction. And what I want to let you know right now ahead of time is what I'm going to present to you is going to look similar to what you already do. Like I'm not going to blow like the lid off of like what you already do, but there are a few tweaks and changes that will make your vocabulary instruction even more effective than maybe what you're doing right now. Okay? So today we have 3 aims that we're going to look at. Can a teammate read that for me, please?
Explain the KIPP multi-step process by experiencing it as a student.
Okay, so there's a 6-step process to vocabulary instruction. It comes from Dr. Robert Marzano. Can we like scooch over so Rick can come in? Who has spent years and years and years doing research on what makes effective vocabulary instruction. Can a teammate read the next one for me, please?
Create the first 3 steps for an upcoming vocabulary word.
Okay, so this is very exciting for me. So in your pre-work, I asked you to list out some vocabulary words that you know you'd be teaching in the next few weeks. You will walk out with a plan for teaching the most important word that you deem next week, the week after, whenever it's going to roll up. And then can a teammate get the last one, please?
Describe appropriate vocabulary activities that support students' understanding of identified vocabulary words.
Okay, so when we talk about some of the steps, some of them will have to do with activities and games, and we'll talk about what that looks like when it's done well. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to start and pretend that we are all KIPsters in a classroom and we are learning new vocabulary words. And your teacher, Ms. Swanson, is so nice and has passed out your vocabulary pages.
And we all have $50 paychecks.
And you all have $50 paychecks. I just gave you a gun for everything. Okay. All right, so now you are all students and I am your teacher. And today, everybody, our vocabulary word is peripatetic. Today our vocabulary word is peripatetic.
Interesting.
Everybody go ahead and say the word peripatetic.
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 One more time, peripatetic.
Peripatetic.
Wonderful. Before you do anything else, and we do anything else with this word, I want you to go ahead and go to this level of understanding scale, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I want you to think about this word peripatetic, and I want you to rank it for me. So number 4 meaning you know the meaning, you could explain it, you can go teach it to somebody else. Number 1 being, like, what is this woman talking about? I've never heard this before in my life. Number 2 being, I have a little idea, but I'm not sure. And number 3, you're feeling mildly confident that you can understand this word. And then make sure that you've written the word down for me too, please. In the space where it says turn. Does everybody have their word and their rating?
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, let's go ahead and let's make meaning of the word peripatetic. So one of the things that I think about when I think about the word peripatetic is right now my family is very peripatetic. So my mom and my dad, their apartment is in Chicago. My mom lives in Indonesia. She lived in Ethiopia last year. My dad is currently in Turkey. He's on his way to Cairo. He just went to Germany. In January, he was in Germany and Cairo as well. And he's going to Australia in April. My family is very peripatetic at this moment. Some synonyms that I think of when I think of the word peripatetic might be words like traveler, wanderer, vagrant, drifting, migrating, moving. All of those help me to think about the word peripatetic. I have another thing that I want you to take a look at that might also help you understand the word peripatetic.
Oh, I love this. Love this video. I love Miss Swanson's class. Cute. Also, he's really attractive. So there's that.
Mine's fine.
Inappropriate time. Oh, it's rice. Did you see that? It's not. It's totally rice.
It's because this guy's also attractive.
He's also very caring.
That's what I'm saying. Let's go. I'll go.
What I would like you to do on your own for a moment is I'd like you to look at the two big boxes. Thinking about the meaning that we just made of the word, go ahead and write your own description in words for what you are currently thinking the word peripatetic means. Once you're done with your description in words, please go ahead and draw a visual to also help you understand that word peripatetic.
Do we do the same as that after this chat? Doesn't matter what. Adult Hannah will answer adult Hannah questions. But teacher Hannah has for a moment.
So description in words and then a visual.
Loves journal.
How much more time do you need?
2 minutes, please.
Let me give you a minute. Halfway between 2 minutes and 2 seconds.
I did.
Let me give you about 30 more seconds. Okay, since I think some of us are already getting there, once you've got your description and your picture, go ahead and turn to someone next to you and compare the descriptions in words of peripatetic. So what did you write down? What did they write down? And then show your pictures to one another and discuss the meaning of the word together. Take about 1 minute to do that.
I feel like the mover constantly traveling through pieces, never want to play it. And that's why I did this. Rachel, what do you think?
Tell me about your picture.
Yeah, it's
I put down start to crumble ride or something.
Do you think it has a
Like that means around.
That's perfect.
My little judge didn't work.
I have no idea what that is.
Good at filling the country. I drew like histogram of the
Never got
It's been technically perhaps.
and then I drew it back now.
That's how I'll break it down. Perhaps. But it doesn't have nothing to do with it.
Kind of like a backpack. So are these in your future plans or you? I have bins of these.
what?
All right.
Can we bring it Africa?
Teammates, can we bring it back together? Can I have maybe two teammates share their description in words of peripatetic? Peggy, go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson. The definition that I have is moving around or traveling to many different places. Right, copy me. Here's my picture. I went to New York and then to Miami, and then there's a rest stop, and then 2 miles to the south, and I jumped down to Texas, and I shot up to Lover's Lane. And it's just the idea of somebody moving, peripatetic.
Can we give it up for Peggy? Can I have one more teammate share their description of the word peripatetic?
Sterling.
Oh dear.
My definition for peripatetic is means to be migrating from one place to another, and so I drew my best spacing possible, and then the plane to H-Town, and then the plane to the Statue of Liberty, and then back to Seattle. And,
I saw lots of pictures that made it look like we were all very peripatetic people in some way or another, moving around. What I want you to do, oh, I'm sorry, can we give it up for Joe? What I would like you to do next is go back up to your rating box and make a second rating. So however you rated the word to begin with, think about where you are now with your understanding from 1 to 4 and re-rate yourself on this word.
Denote it in a way.
However you would like to re-rate yourself. And if you can just show me on your fingers where you are with that re-rating. Wonderful. Cool. So now I'm going into like adult teacher Hannah with adult learners. So that would be what I would do for the first introduction of a vocabulary word. The first 3 steps in the 6-step cycle are all about the initial teaching of the word. What do you notice are some of the things that I did do and I didn't do before I give you the actual list? Yes?
So you made sure to have students generate their own understanding after accessing, I don't know, external like stimuli, like pictures, video, synonyms.
I thought it was really interesting that you like didn't spend a lot of like time or point out where they were to like write things down or whatever, like the well, for instance, the synonyms. Like I was like looking, like trying to get there, but you didn't like spend a lot of time on that. It was just kind of an overview of it, and then you said, now what do you think? Let's start into it.
you repeated the word peripatetic quite a few times, so much so that I almost wanted to start a tally.
Okay. Guess
And in addition to generating our own definition, we didn't actually ever say a definition. We talked about sort of our sense of the word and what we internalized in meaning.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to pass out the second document to you. There are 2 pages. The first page is the one we're going to look at to begin with. And this has the actual 6 steps. You just keep passing them around and stop when you get there on them. So this is where I need a Boy Scout to pass out papers.
Is that Barrett?
Where's that line?
Oh, line. Sorry.
Extra? 5 minutes. Okay, so we did the first 3 steps in the 6-step process. So the first step being, I provided you a new term that was a term that I deemed important for our instruction today. I give you a description, an explanation. I told you a story about my family being peripatetic. I showed you some synonyms of the word peripatetic, and I showed you a video of being peripatetic. I wasn't super concerned about you writing down the synonyms. You can be if you want to. I was giving those to you more as I wanted you to generate knowledge in your brain, not that I needed you to know in that moment synonyms of peripatetic. So I provided you that description, the explanation, the example, and you're right, I never actually gave you the definition of the word. And that is the key difference in the 6-step process, is that at no point are you really giving kids a word-for-word definition of the word you are looking at. Now, while you are writing things down, if I was with a group of kids, I would be circulating around to make sure what they're writing down is on target for the word. And if I have a kid who I know is going to have a hard time making meaning, I'm going to be ready to have a conversation with them to help them write down an appropriate meaning of that word, but I'm not giving them peripatetic means to do, because that's very passive learning, and kids aren't actually doing anything in their brain to create links, to get context, to learn from experience, to actually be able to get new vocabulary words. Because essentially we think when kids read, if they need to know the meaning of a word, they have to make it from context. And if our vocabulary instruction is just giving definitions, kids are not learning how to make meaning from context. And then we have that awkward thing where we have to teach them to do context clues. Like we want them just to do it naturally because our instruction does that for them. So I gave you those descriptions. I asked you to restate it. I asked you to write it down. And then I also asked you to draw a picture of the word too. Both of those are very important for all of our kids, even our ones who are like, I hate drawing. Everybody loves drawing. Like, it's fun to put a word down in pictures. It helps kids make meaning of those words. So those are the first 3 steps that I would do. And then I'd probably go on with like the rest of my teaching for the day, whatever that is, whatever comes next. Before we jump into the third steps, questions, thoughts, comments about those first 3? Yes.
So essentially, would this be a whole lesson, or would this be like at the beginning of class, introducing a couple of words that you might be teaching?
This would be like a 10-minute introduction. So when I started teaching religion, I did this process with religion before we started looking at Christianity and Judaism for that day.
How many words can you do in one sitting?
It's a very good question. So we'll talk in a few months about the types of words that do need to be taught, like the most important ones. I would recommend you do no more than 2 in a day. And usually like one of them will be the more important one of the 2. And I wouldn't think you'd want to do 2 every single day. I would think you'd want to have between 1 and 4 a week that are the words you're targeting.
And in a second, when she jumps through steps 4, 5, and 6, we'll show you how to incorporate some supporting words that you might not need to directly teach, but that you still want kids to know as well.
Question. Does it matter if it's what part of speech it is? Like peripatetic, I didn't know. Like if it was a noun or verb or adjective. Does that matter to say like this is a noun or?
I don't think it necessarily matters to say this is a noun. Like there are some people who would argue it's super important to know. I think when you're giving examples and then if you're having kids go back and use the word in writing, like them modeling where they put the word based off your modeling of the sentence. So like me saying my family is peripatetic, like that can help you generate a sentence similarly modeling my sentence with it.
And part of that is like peripatetic is actually an adjective. It also can be a noun. Someone can be a peripatetic, and so using it in multiple ways while you're talking is really helpful.
My father is a peripatetic. Other questions before we jump into the remaining 3 steps?
So what exactly is the definition?
Do we get
Essentially what you all wrote down is the definition of
Like
peripatetic.
someone who
So
travels.
nomad, like kind of nomad.
Okay.
And no, yeah.
Sorry. Now, Ryzen, I have a question now. So let's say we go through this and a group just somehow ended up with the wrong gist of the word.
Great, let's move into the next steps and
Let's
we
do
can
it.
go there.
No,